We now move on to our next session. We have experts discuss all things beverage. As the moderator for this session, we have Mr. Sandeep Arora, Director, Spiritual Luxury Living. Mr. Arora introduced India to the art of luxury drinking in 2003. Over the last 20 years, he has led spiritual luxury living and emerged as a world-class spirits advisor. Joining him on stage are Mr. Deepak Ohri, founder and CEO, LAMH Asia Management Company, Ms. Mahima Kapoor, Head of Prestige, Suntory Global Spirits India, and Mr. Rohit Sachdev, founder and CEO of SOHO Hospitality. Please give them a round of applause.
Oh, the pictures are gone now.
Pictures are gone. It doesn't matter.
I think it's fine everywhere. Finally, we had the beverages. All this while, we've been talking about hospitality, food, cuisine, luxury. Now we take it to the next high, a spiritual high. Interestingly, spiritual is not about traditional spirituality. It's about spirits and rituals, experiential areas in bars and beverage management. And who best to represent this than three stalwarts here? Whilst they have been introduced, but I think it'll be interesting to hear from them a wee bit about what passion, what ignites them about bars and beverages, and how collectively they're taking the next high on the bar and the beverage scenes across the world and in their own respective countries. Maybe we can start with Mr. Deepak Ohri. Would you like to share about something a little more interesting about yourself and about the next bar escapade for you?
Good, thank you. First of all, good afternoon to everyone. And I would like to say thanks to HICSA, Hotelivate, and Manav. Not because he's allowed me to speak here, but he has allowed a food and beverage panel to be on the main stage. And I think that's the shift which is very much needed. And that is an area of opportunity that is very much needed. But by saying that, why it is needed and why it is so important is, I'm going to give you a few indicators. And I just want to indulge with the audience, and if audience can participate, I'll be deeply grateful. If you take the cumulative salary of top 5 global hotel CEOs, for 2024, it is $136 million. And if you compare that with the top 5 global food and beverage business CEOs, it is $291 million. When you look at the average price in a space of hotel global CEOs, it is $82. When you look at the food and beverage space, the average ticket price is $3. In South Mumbai in year 2000, because it's a 25 years of HICSA, one of a prominent, they have 2 hotels, the 2 prominent hotels revenue was $30 million. 2024 ending is approximately $65 million. There are 2 hotels. Look at the capital outlay. The number 1 restaurant earning in the world is revenue for 2024 is $49.7 million. It's a 500-seat restaurant. But there's another 75-seat restaurant, which is called 11 Madison Park, where the revenue is $27 million. There's a 14-seat restaurant closed for 2 days in a week, open only for dinner, does $9.8 million. These are just few indications. So that everyone who's working here or who's here listening, we are focusing, or we have been focusing on RevPAR. I think the opportunity lies in TRevPAR. That is the total revenue available per room. So we are missing in food and beverage. The other area of opportunity is that every top bar in India you go, they have a standard liquor on display. And we wonder why people are not spending. When you look at the menu and look on the right-hand side, the price is high. There's a disconnect. So I would like to speak about myself, but it's a limited time, so I want to give this opportunity for all of you to pay attention to this panel to understand that are you doing what we are talking about, or you want to do what we are going to talk about. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deepak. Essentially, post-COVID and over the last few years, we've seen a huge change in trends, consumer behavior, bars, beverages, brands, some of them coming alive, some of them fading into oblivion. Rohit, how do you feel about the new consumer behavior trends across beverages and at some of your bars and restaurants in Bangkok?
Some of the really interesting trends that I'm seeing is that we've moved into a world of collaboration. Collaboration has become a key trend, both at the macro level and the micro level. At the macro level, I'm talking about collaborations such as Singapore bringing Taylor Swift and monopolizing on her concert into Singapore. It increased their GDP by about 2.8%. And during that weekend, they brought in $200 million of revenues into Singapore. Now, we look at that at the macro level. If you looked at the Coldplay concert when Coldplay was playing in Thailand, all the Indians from India came to Thailand. Two of my restaurants, which are 9 years old, had the highest revenues filled by Indians. So at the macro level, there's a lot of opportunities about collaboration. If you come to the micro level and you look at restaurants and bars, using paid content and advertising, it doesn't move the needle.
Right.
So at the micro level, we need to look at collaboration. And the best way to collaborate is to look at influencer marketing. It's the easiest way to connect to to influencers who have a large network, and then using that network to connect into the like-minded followers. And then you're seeing all sorts of other collaborations, guest chefs, bar takeovers, and things like that. But the idea is that the collaborations drive yield to the balance sheet, whether you're looking at the macro level or the micro level. And we need to be looking at more collaborations. The next thing is that India has a large number of Generation Z consumers, right? But the problem with this demographic is they're coming into the world at a time in which their lives are doomed. We've screwed their lives from them. Climate change, Donald Trump, ability to acquire assets, everything has become so difficult. So when these people are going into bars and restaurants, I used to always say that if the food is not good, I will not come back. But when you look at this younger demographic, they're so difficult to understand. They're only looking at one thing: I want to do what makes me happy.
Right.
So previously I used to say food and beverage is really important. Now I don't say it's that important anymore because these people want to go to places that make them happy. I went to a restaurant with my niece, she's a Gen Z. They were doing 3D printing cocktail drinks. And my niece tells her other Gen Z friend, don't buy this $20 drink, it doesn't taste good. The friend replies to my niece, who said I'm going to drink it? I just want to take a photo of it and put it on my Instagram. So the whole notion of I want to do what makes me happy, I want to do what makes my life better, takes precedence over what we know to be, the precedent for good food and beverage, which is great food and great drink. That is now taken a backstage, and we need to look at the other experiential elements, such as branding, uniforms, tabletops, entertainment, dining. These are the things that are going to attract this demographic.
Super. So essentially, one trend which I wouldn't say has set in, but is beginning to evolve. On one side, the Gen Z is not really drinking that much. The growth in non-alco bev or low alco bev is supposed to be 37%, even though on a smaller base. But the world spirits market is going up between 1% and 3% overall. So when you are running accomplished bars or running brands, as Mahima you are, how are you ensuring that on one side, the new generations are not connecting with spirits, maybe in a few years from now?
I mean,
the US is beginning to settle in.
It's a huge problem. I thought the title of this session should be, lowering the bar, because these Gen Zs are not drinking. And it's really scary. Again, I go back to my family. I've got 5 nieces who are Gen Zs and they don't drink. part of the reason is because they're on a health kick. They want to go to the gym. They want to do, now you're seeing all these morning raves going on at coffee.
Right.
You know, but one of the reasons that they're not going out is because they're going, you know, bars are getting more and more expensive, you know, everywhere in the world. You go and you're paying $15, $20 a drink. They're like, we don't want to pay this much for this drink anymore. It's not of value to them. And their tastes and, you know, so we have to think about, you know, how are we going to activate this, you know, like wine sales has gone down with the, you know,
Right.
mass wine producing regions. You look at Chile, you look at Australia, look at their wines, you know, those commercial, you know, commodity wines, they're all struggling. And these consumers are not going out anymore. And so as we navigate and we think about what we're going to do, you know, we need to think about the future. We need to think about 5 years, 10 years from now, because what's going to happen, these Gen Zs they're going to get their boyfriends and girlfriends. They're going to get married. They're going to get kids. And this is a momentum that we can't stop. So, you know, we are looking. I've tried a lot of these 0.0 spirits. Honestly, I have to tell you, they taste terrible. I rather drink water. But if you go to places like Saudi Arabia, I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, I'll shut up in a second. But if you go to places like Saudi Arabia and you drink some of these 0.0 spirits, they're selling these mocktails for $15, $20 more than we're selling alcoholic beverages here. But we need to think about this demographic. We need to understand them. Most of you have Gen Z children, and you still don't understand them because they have such a different atypical mindset. But to try to map out that code, to try to unlock that, is really the answer to our
Right.
survival going forward.
So essentially, if you
Sorry,
pick up...
can I say something?
Yes, please.
Somehow a little bit, means maybe my data is different, disagree with you because even today, the quality of food and quality of service is number one. Now, Gen Z is not drinking, they're having one drink. Now, there's a cocktail called screwdriver, which is vodka and orange juice. And 90% of the hotels, they know how to screw the screwdriver. The point is, we do not understand the word called consistency. We are more towards the quantitative route rather than a qualitative route. Okay, the Gen Z, okay, of course, they're having one drink, but they want that drink with a quality. You can charge them $25, you can charge them $30. They're ready to pay for that drink, but that drink has to be worth that $30.
100%.
Now, Saudi Arabia is Saudi Arabia. We all know that there's no alcohol allowed. You try bringing Saudi Arabia $20 mocktail to India, I will change my name if there are people who are spending, because if you can drink alcohol, you can't make a good cocktail. How can you expect the same hotel to make a better mocktail? So I think we are not following the qualitative route. We have not understood the potential. We have not understood how the whole spirit business works. So your card is very good spiritual. I have on my left is Mahima. I'm a big fan of her company, not because she is sitting on the left side, but when you work with these brands, you also elevate yourself. So I find the title of this, Raising the Bar, is not that we make a bar and we are able to raise. How do we collaborate? Airlines long time back used to collaborate. You have Tim Hortons coffee on the airline, you have Starbucks coffee, you have Dunkin' Donuts on the airline. Recently, few hotels chains have started providing Starbucks, but not many of us understand the collaboration level. Yes, Taylor Swift runs the economy, but we are running hotels. How do we run the hotel and make it profitable? We are neglecting a food and beverage area because we have already given up before we started. There are great spirits available. You are working, our pronunciation is different, but Mitchell's 25 years. Suntory means if some of their labels, you don't even get that. One has to look at the Hibiki porcelain edition. You keep that in your restaurants, people buy the bottles. There are people who are spending the money and they're young. I just opened a place in Phuket 3 months back. In less than 2 months, New York Times gave a headline that, oh, it is the rival to the beaches. We sell Cristal champagne, which is premium or known champagne with respect to the other brands also, but we sell it by liters, not by bottles. It is sold by liters. In a place in Phuket, if we look at UNWTO figure where that restaurant is located, It is $3 per day spending on food and beverage in Phuket town. And our restaurant, there is a $550 average check restaurant. Champagne is being sold by liters. The point is how you raise the bar, how you collaborate, what brands you bring, and how you maintain that quality and consistency. And that is what Gen Z is looking at. Gen Z is not telling us to change our path. They're telling us to elevate our path.
I mean, I agree
We
with
should
that.
let Mahima speak.
So I think
hearing both of
one of
you.
the points is that on one side, we have the Gen Z, which seems to be possibly, and I'm saying seemingly possibly because it's not established, it's a trend we're observing. The other side there, you have the 50 plus, which have been regular drinkers, but they're hitting more the wellness route. So as an international spirits brand, one side of these audiences, the other is that the hotels and bars and restaurants are also facing similar challenges. So how are you contributing or supporting to raise the bar with these restaurants and bars and hotels and supporting them and raising the bar so that the whole experience inside the bar is what I would call a perfect pour?
So see, again, very interesting points and counterpoints. A lot of the numbers that we discussed, Gen Z is coming up, they are into a no-low sort of a culture, but India and certain other markets, still the market for spirits, for alcoholic beverages, growing at a very, very robust pace. Even worldwide, if you were to look at the whiskey segment in itself, it's going to be $86 billion by 2029. Robust CAGR of double digits in this segment. Now the differentiation, like both of you have mentioned probably, but in different terms, is do you drink more or you drink better? And everybody, whether it be Gen Z or millennials, they want to drink better. It's a trend that we as an organization are seeing. We are one of the premier producers of premium spirits. And in fact, even in a category like IMFL, which is Indian Made Foreign Liquor, there is scope for innovation. One of our biggest brands is Oaksmith, which combines Japanese craftsmanship, which combines Indian whiskey making. So there is that scope, like you both said, you have to marry the sensibility of Gen Z coming in and posting Instagrammable content, Instagrammable cocktails. How do we as brands then partner with F&B venues around that and across the spectrum? So it is not just the lower end, it's not just the most premium luxury brands, it's everywhere in between. And this is by certain things that you mentioned, you know, getting some of these international bars to come in, bring the newer trends to countries like India and even other countries in Southeast Asia. We have done that, and the kind of response that we get is phenomenal. People are queuing up at bars to experience when Jigger and Pony, who are 5th bar in the world, or it's a Satan's Whisker, which is the #1 bar in UK, when they're coming to Delhi, people are queuing up outside the bars. So I think it's a mixed bag. It's how the brands also collaborate with the F&B venues. And I love the concept of total revenue, right? So we, as spirits companies, as somebody like a Suntory, we believe in elevating that experience, raising the bar essentially, if you were to say, and helping the F&B venues make more margins and more profits.
So essentially, one
sorry.
then question to...
She's here, right? I want to add something, and I want to ask the audience. How many of you are from Mumbai? I think you can raise hand if you're from Mumbai. Good. I want to understand something from my understanding, because I've come to Mumbai after a long time. Who's more famous in Mumbai? Shah Rukh Khan or Shilpa Shetty? How come Shah Rukh Khan restaurant is not doing well and Shilpa Shetty restaurant you can't get a table? So Instagram or marketing has to be done differently. It is not about a famous person can do everything. But we are not thinking on those lines. If Shah Rukh Khan is so famous and if people are following what is put on Instagram, you would not be able to enter his restaurant. Anyway, please. Sorry.
So essentially, keeping in view the perspectives of that how hotel, one, costs are also very high. Hotel costs of beverage is very high.
What would cost of?
The cost of sale, I mean, for a drink in a hotel.
So
is
selling price or the
ordinarily-
cost?
No, in terms of the selling price.
The cost to the consumer.
Is very high. So a lot of people abstain sometimes from, it's like I have a friend who says when I go to a hotel, I keep praying that my customers don't drink more than a Glenfiddich 12, but at home, I can offer him a 21 very easily.
So I went to a Rolls Royce showroom.
Right.
I said, I want to look at the Rolls Royce, not that I can afford, so please don't. And then the guy was showing me the car, and then I asked him, how many kilometers per liter? The guy never looked back at me. So if you're entering a hotel, and if the selling price is a problem for you, your marketing is wrong or you got a wrong customer.
I think that's the problem, right? It's like you go to the hotel, you know, the price is based on perceived value, right? But you're not offering any storytelling or anything to enhance the customer experience. And so that's the real problem.
Rohit, actually, on the contrary, you're right, but other way. There's a lot of storytelling, but the reality is very different than the storytelling.
Yeah, and there was a research done looking at entitlement cycles versus infatuation cycles. It's called the McDonald's curve. And the McDonald's curve back in the day used to be like this. The entitlement cycles versus the infatuation cycles. The infatuation cycles were much longer. They were much longer like that. But now people don't have any attention span. So the entitlement cycles versus infatuation are going like this. And who figured out how to solve that problem the best was Apple with the iPhone update. The moment your infatuation with the product goes to entitlement, they started releasing you an update. So as brand operators, we need to constantly look at our brand as an organism, as an evolving organism. We need to humanize the brand, and we need to constantly elevate the brand using marketing, storytelling, collaborations, or whatever you're talking about. But the problem is that the hotels can work with designers to create these great spaces, but once you get the hardware right, the problem is that the software is not right. Now, by the software, I mean, what's the music you're playing? Does the lighting, you know, is it programmed using, lighting scenes, and all of this matters because that's, people always ask me, what are you good at, Rohit? And I said, I'm really good at touching the human heart. And I touch the human heart because I implement a methodology called experience by design. Experience by design is when every single experiential component is researched, planned, and executed with an excruciating amount of detail. And then we're connecting that to great marketing activations, social media, videos, influencers, and all of that. And you need to get this whole universe right, or else it's not going to work. And it's complicated.
I agree with Rohit. So we did a restaurant in Phuket. Our head of marketing, Dr. Anna Pitrasek, she works for our company. We were at $150. Right now, the average check is $550. You know how additional $400 came from? Music and lighting. We got the music, lighting right because we understand what is the customer journey, how to create the consumer experience. And there's an elevation of $400 plus per person.
Yeah, we have a new concept, hybrid concept in Bangkok. It's called Apartment 101. We hired an influencer with 400,000 followers because we felt we wanted to create a dotted line into his network. And with that one post of this space, this club that we opened up, within a few days, it got 7.6 million views worldwide with 167,000 shares. 167,000 shares. Guess what I did? I just sat back and watched the people, come into my place from all over the world. So, you need to understand all of these dynamics. You can't play the same game. And that's the challenge with, I always say the developers, the hoteliers, they can think big. They know it from the asset, the money, the development. They know how to build a room. But when it comes down to picking the right napkin and figuring out what song to play, it's not, I'm not saying that they can't be good at both. But I think they need to start, I always say, you need to, if you've got great assets in great locations, and you're not driving yield to your balance sheet from your F&B, but you have the great surrounding captive market, they're great guys, people on this panel as well as elsewhere. You gotta try and fail, but fail fast. But you gotta try, because if you can drive yield to because the room rates, you're yielding 5% up, 5% down, but if you get the F&B right, you can increase your bottom line by 40 to 50%. But I'm not seeing people in this room trying enough. They don't want to try. And I can't understand why. I don't understand what is the impediment to just putting, how much is it going to cost to these guys? It would cost, let's say, $1 million, let's say $1.5 million to really activate everything. But what's that? If it works out, if you place that bet and it works out, it will drive yield and you will keep experimenting. But I'm not seeing enough people experimenting.
So what's the, when you look at one side, we talked enough about the Gen Z and other areas, and sustainability seems to be creeping in, storytelling is happening. At this point in time, there are 72 alcohol companies in India. I mean, Suntory is one of them, but there's 71 more. The Indian brands are proliferating, they're getting more acceptance globally. What looks like what I would call a perfect bar to you in the future? Would it be, for example, in a hotel? Would it be standalone? Would it be another area where the dollar is getting stretched? People are wanting experiential drinking. So people are now creating, like we are creating a concept called Malt in the Mountains, right? We're creating a bar up in the hills somewhere. So are you feeling that people, the new beverage experiences will be outside of hotels? Will it be inside hotels? Will hotels go back to investing in bars? Or will they be stretched into hillsides and it will be malts and
where
moments?
the best bar would be?
Right? That's what I'm saying. So if you can share
trust.
views on what's the bar of the future,
No,
where
I'm
do you
saying
see it?
trust. You know why trust? 15 years back, how many of us would spend $300 for 12 pieces of sushi? Nobody. But today we are spending that amount of money. You know why? Japanese over a period of time had developed the trust. Let's look at Suntory. Who would have thought that Yamazaki would be such a steal to get? Nobody would have thought, but they have done it. What they have developed the trust. The idea is how do we develop the trust? And the trust is the final product. And now we have to break down the trust into different byproducts or subproducts. And then you get many things, IG, marketing, everything, how it has to be done. So design can change. Let me explain it to you. The food can change. Trends will come, trends will go. But one thing that will always stay would be a trust. How do you develop the trust with your customer will decide how much your customers are going to spend with you and how often they will come to you. And trust is a currency we are not working on.
Yeah. No, I agree, because for services as well as for brands, that's something that's utmost and it's supremely critical. Like you mentioned, for Japanese spirits, etc., it's all about that monozukuri of the process, how the entire liquid is blended, how the craftsmanship comes through, and the trust that certain areas, certain international regions have been able to build over the years is now yielding them a lot of profits. And that applies to services as well. So in hotels and restaurants and standalone bars, we see that difference wherein the bartenders or the mixologists are ambassadors and they know what the consumer wants. They have their pulse on the consumer's needs, right? So when somebody is walking in, what kind of a drink you want, the smallest thing like the kind of ice can help you charge 100% premium on your cocktail. It's the minute things that add up to the entire value. So trust is the foundation, then you add on other things like marketing, you add on social media, etc., experiential activation. That's how the entire spectrum is built.
So if there's no trust, nothing is going to work.
Absolutely.
So one observation I had a few years back, I was in Australia, and this guy told me something very interesting which got embedded in my head. He says it was a beautiful bar somewhere in Sydney, it was Speakeasy, they had almost 800, 900 whiskeys, it was a haven for whiskey lovers. And this man made a very interesting statement to me. He's saying, we do not take any listing fee.
Sorry?
We do not take any listing fee from brands. We do not charge companies. We don't make money from brands. We make money from bottles.
Yeah.
But in India, I think we have a perspective, or even in Asia that matter, that there comes a lot of money or a budget being allocated to bars. Do you feel that that will change? And as consumers are getting more into awareness, sustainability, storytelling, and the question you said to me that you entered a premium bar and the first bottle you saw was a blend,
normal level or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So do you think this is going to change, that the whole concept with even with bar owners will change towards revenue inclined towards selling from the bottle, creating the experience with the bar, or being the company being a source of revenue?
I give you an idea. Again, it's not my project, but the lady who does our marketing did this. This was a 3-star restaurant in Paris. The chef walked away. Or the partnership got terminated, whatever the reason is. The hotel spent a lot of money. She was called to do the whole marketing. And she said, you know what? Your marketing was not good because the chef was the absent chef. Meaning the chef comes, say once in 2 months or once in 3 months. So since he was staying in France, he would come once in 1 month. So it's the absent chef, that marketing is wrong. We got a new chef there. The restaurant with that chef got 1 star, doing twice the revenue. But why customer is paying more? First is it trust. Second is how you do the marketing. I see 6 restaurants, famous restaurants in Mumbai, before coming on this panel on a stage, and all their marketing thing is same. You can't run restaurants like that. Oh, you copy from this IG, you copy from this IG. No, you have your different configuration. You can't put a Fiat engine in the Rolls Royce, and you can't put Rolls Royce engine in the Fiat. Everything has a very different DNA, and everything has a very different way of working. So customers are smart. When I talk about trust, customers do not know what kind of food you're serving, but customers know you looking at your IG, whether to trust you or not to trust you.
So what's the next high for bars across the world? What's the next experience, or what's the bar of the
Keeping
future?
Yamazaki 25 years, bottles and bottles of that.
Thank you for that.
For me, what I think the future, when we came out of the COVID pandemic changed the definition of dining. During the pandemic, dining meant sit in your pajamas, watch Netflix, have the food come to you, right? So when we got out of the pandemic, we needed to get people out of their pajamas and back into the restaurants. And I got on stage and I said, the future of dining is not dining out. The future of dining out is entertainment. And the first restaurant we launched after that was a Japanese restaurant called Yankee. It was an entertainment dining restaurant. You come there, you get smashed, you ring a bell, you buy a round of shots, and it's full-on entertainment dining, playing Japanese drinking games. I really believe that you need, whatever restaurant or bar you create, you need to figure out what is that entertainment. Now, by entertainment, I don't mean what I've done at this restaurant. But by entertainment, I mean immersive experiences, interactive experiences, and what I call the essence of what hospitality is, which is surprising our customers in a delightful way. Because that is the core element of why we are all in business in this room, to surprise our customers in a delightful way. And there's so many ways of doing it, whether it's from a service standpoint, from a drink trolley that can serve different types of drinks and infusions, or perhaps if you want to get into entertainment. But you got to find, when you create these restaurants and you say, I'm going to create this restaurant, you got to really ask yourself, what are the 2 or 3 X factors that I'm going to bring into this that nobody else is doing? Because it's getting that complicated and consumers are overloaded with content. And if you want to cut through the noise, just doing the same average thing and giving a name to it, it's not going to work.
So one interesting question, slightly offbeat to all 3 of you. 2003, I got luxury whiskey range called the Rare Whiskies to India in 2003. And that point in time, a very popular blend was almost about 1,100 rupees a bottle. And they used to tell me that if you drink this whiskey, which is the most popular blended whiskey, even God will drink with you.
What?
Even God will drink with you. Then they said if you drink another colored version of that whiskey.
Is he here?
Sorry?
Sorry.
And they said if you drink the more elevated version of this, it'll be even amazing. So, and that whiskey was 3,500 rupees a bottle. So the whiskeys that I bought in was 5 lakhs a bottle, 10 lakhs a bottle, 20 lakhs a bottle. And one drink in Grand Hyatt Bombay used to be sold for 3 lakhs. And in 1 year, we were super successful. We were sold out. This was a William Grant Rare Whiskies. Do you see something like that coming back, where people in good bars, in good hotels, in good restaurants will enjoy aged variants of drinks, legacy-driven drinks, or picking up cognacs with a certain way, or ports from 1860s?
I
He's
understood.
the
I'll
guy
start
to
with this.
answer this question.
Yeah.
See, authenticity is very important and trust. Now, you're in the liquor business, you'll understand. We serve champagne in a glass. And everyone drinks that. How do you know the champagne you're drinking is best? A question I'm asking, I don't want to embarrass anyone, so I'll answer. We look at the bubbles from the side and say this is the best quality champagne. No. The answer is when you put a champagne either in a silver glass or in a porcelain glass and look at the bubble from the top, that means champagne is fresh, not from the side. You bring those real stories to the people, the authenticity. You tell them when you are serving them a Japanese whiskey or you're serving them a bourbon, you don't cut the ice or you don't take the ice from that mold because the composition of whiskey is different. When the composition of whiskey and the spirit in that is different, how do you cut the ice so your whiskey stay fresh? People are going to pay premium. How do you serve Screaming Eagle? We serve Screaming Eagle by glass. You know how much is that? $3,000 a glass. People buy.
No, again, Sandeep, to your question,
how-
the answer is absolutely. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
there
absolutely
is
yes for all of
absolutely
us.
one word for it.
So you're saying that we are going back into rarefied experiences, legacy-driven drinks, coming down to very premium areas. The cost is not the factor, but would you come back and see in India somebody drinking a 50-year-old single malt?
Definitely, that's why we're here.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean,
and again,
you
going
see,
back,
it's-
going back to the point, which you also mentioned, Rohit, you also, hinted at that. People are drinking less, but they want to drink
Drinking
better.
quality.
And
Yeah.
that's
the
across
key
all
word. People
demographics.
want to drink
Across the world,
better.
yeah.
It's happening
whether
across
it's Gen
all
Z,
demographics.
millennials, everybody wants to drink better.
See, I tell you also, and we are not aware, and that's why people like us, me and Rohit are very important. You're not a consultant, so this is a commercial break for 1 minute before they call the time. So I took a train because I was, before coming for a conference, I went to Vaishno Devi and then I went to Srinagar. So I took a train from Delhi to Katra. It's called Vande
Bharat.
Bharat train. And everybody is calling me, please don't eat on the train. And I had a lunch somewhere in a very nice restaurant and that was a disastrous lunch. And I was hungry. So somehow I looked at the packaging of the food that was served to a person sitting next to me. And I said, I want to eat. Until I came to where I'm staying at the Intercontinental Marine Drive. That is the best food I had. But before that, I stayed at Srinagar, I stayed at Jammu, and I ate in Delhi. My best food was on the train. And they gave a deconstructed tomato soup. And suddenly here we are giving a deconstructed food or a dish and we are charging. I think we have to move away from these. These are trends. They have come and they have gone. They're like a season. Let's not go back there. But suddenly we see that, in US or in London, they are doing a deconstructed food, we should bring it to India. No, look at the Indian railways. But most of us in this room do not travel by train, so we don't know what is happening there. But the customer is. And that is why he's not paying the price. That is why he's saying this is not something I have come here for. And you know what is our analysis? Our analysis is that the customer do not want to spend. Even today in India, all the hotels have an Excel sheet or a survey given to the guest. 10 said excellent, 9 said not excellent. But when we study marketing, we are not taught this. So we think that, 50% the guest is happy. But that is again wrong. So our interpretation of the data is wrong. Customer is not wrong. Customer is ready to spend. We are not ready to provide him.
Yeah, I think when you look at the preference, what's the growth right now, if you look in the growth is in, and I'm not talking about fast food
Sure.
but if the growth is in the lifestyle restaurants. Because the lifestyle restaurants are a type of restaurant which cater to a wider demographic. You could be sitting with a Gen Z, upper middle class guy, and a guy who's very high net worth in the same restaurant, right? So we have to understand about premiumization within those lifestyle offerings that we have, so that if he wants to buy that $3,000 champagne or he wants to drink that those drinks are readily
glass, not a
available
bottle.
for that particular demographic. Because we're seeing new emerging classes of, ultra wealth, and we have to accommodate them. And these people are going to those same lifestyle restaurants because they're the best places to see and be seen. So I think there's certainly a market for it. I don't think we're doing enough.
So summing up, I think we have very little time. What are the top 3 ingredients, secret sauce, components, elements that you feel makes a good bar a great experience?
Trust, trust, trust. Rohit, over to you.
For me, it comes down to an amazing storytelling that, you know, touches the human heart. And I think that when you deliver that, it goes on repeat because people do the marketing for you.
And I think coming from the brand side, it's more of a holistic approach wherein you don't see brands as just vendors, but partners in this journey. So collaborate more, get a better experience for the consumer, which helps the hotels, which helps the restaurants also to make more money. And it's a win-win situation for everyone. So collaboration is the way ahead.
I think I'll just add to what you said. A few months back, I was in one of the restaurants in BKC, and I was staying in a hotel in Bandra. And we just talked to this guy, and I said, you know, you're really good. He was very nice, warm, very gently personalized, not intrusive. And he said, don't take this will not go with this. And 5, 6 of us sitting, all from the alcohol industry. So I looked at this guy, and I said, you know, you should be working in a good 5-star hotel. You have fantastic communication skills. He did like this. He says, no. I worked in a hotel. I was very practiced there. That's the word he used. He says, here, I'm very practiced. He says, I was told what to do, and if I didn't do it, they didn't like it. Here, I'm very natural in my own element, and I'm able to express myself. So is that how you feel a future bar will be? Very expressive, very story-oriented, trust, of course, you're talking about. And what will stimulate them? What will make guests create that perfect pores in the bar?
So, Sandeep, there's no one answer for that. The point is at what level you are. So, if you're at a luxury level, on 8th there was an owner's panel, and I was very honored because Manav invited me there. And there was one question that was put, that the inbound tourists are not coming a lot in India. And all of you are going to hate me for saying this. So please forgive me, but it's my opinion. So they said there are not enough inbound tourists are coming into India. You know what I said to myself? India is very lucky.
India is very
Lucky.
lucky.
Because our hotels are not ready to serve those kind of inbound tourists that we are expecting them to come. Here the VIP service is 4 people walking with you. The more people walk with you, meaning you are an important person. I had to get 6 people to walk with me in the morning. Yesterday, nobody was looking at me. It's a joke. So the more people walk with you, you are a VIP. And when you go to the other countries, they want privacy. The sound of luxury is silent. It is not loud. When it becomes loud, it becomes a nuisance. And
Super.
that's a reality.
Great, thank you. Thanks,
you.
Mahima, Rohit.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.